The story unfolds in a tense and dramatic fashion. Belarus, a country long seen as one of Russia's closest allies, has issued a warning that has left Moscow unsettled. What once seemed like a secure alliance has started to show cracks under the weight of war and shifting political winds. Russia, locked in a grinding and costly conflict in Ukraine, is now faced with a challenge it did not expect from its own neighbor. Belarus is signaling that it may no longer play the obedient partner, and this warning has raised red alert alarms across the region. The story is not just about two nations in disagreement, it is about shifting loyalties, growing dangers, and the unraveling of a fragile balance that could reshape the conflict entirely. The red alert is real, and for Vladimir Putin, it marks yet another storm he has to navigate at a time when his power and influence are already under pressure. Hello everyone, welcome back to the World Conflict Monitor channel. Please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any updates on the evolving crises, the geopolitical shifts, and the hidden stories behind global conflicts. Today we dive deep into one of the most shocking developments of recent weeks, Belarus warning Russia. What does this mean for Putin, for Europe, and for the balance of power in the region? Let's break it down in detail, looking at the exterior, interior, performance, safety features, unique selling points, the cost, and finally, our conclusion on why this matters so much right now. From the outside, the exterior of this crisis shows us a picture that is both stark and dramatic. Belarus has long been seen as a country in Russia's shadow. For decades, especially under the rule of President Alexander Lukashenko, Minsk has relied on Moscow for economic support, energy supplies, and political backing. In return, Belarus has allowed Russia to use its territory for military exercises, troop deployments, and even as a staging ground during the early days of the Ukraine war. This exterior view made the alliance appear unshakable, almost as though Belarus was an extension of Russia itself. But beneath that exterior surface, cracks have appeared. The warning issued by Belarus reveals a sudden departure from the old pattern. It shows a readiness to stand apart, to declare limits, and even to put Russia on notice that Belarusian interests cannot be taken for granted. This exterior image of a once tight-knit brotherhood now turning into a strained partnership is powerful. It signals that even those closest to Russia are starting to rethink the costs of unconditional loyalty in the face of prolonged war. Looking inside, the interior is more complicated, but also revealing. Inside Belarus, the population has grown weary of being tied so closely to Russia's war machine. Ordinary Belarusians have no desire to be dragged deeper into the conflict. The government, while authoritarian and tightly controlled, cannot completely ignore the risks of domestic unrest if it continues to follow Moscow blindly. Internally, Belarus must calculate carefully. While Lukashenko has survived political challenges before, he knows that aligning too heavily with Putin could create a backlash that weakens his grip on power. The interior of this crisis shows a government balancing between loyalty to an old ally and the pressing need to secure its own survival and stability. That is why this interior view, though brief, carries such weight. It explains why Belarus has decided to speak out now, warning Russia at such a sensitive moment. When we look at the performance of this alliance in recent years, the picture becomes clearer. For years, Russia and Belarus performed like a well-coordinated team on the geopolitical stage. Belarus gave Moscow diplomatic backing in international forums, and Moscow provided Belarus with discounted oil, gas, and loans to prop up its fragile economy. Their military performance together was also notable, with joint drills and constant shows of unity. But now, the performance is faltering. Russia's war in Ukraine has drained resources, exposed weaknesses in its military, and eroded its reputation as a dependable power. Belarus, watching all this closely, has begun to question whether Russia can still perform its role as protector and benefactor. The longer the war drags on, the worse Russia's performance looks to its allies. Belarus's warning is, in many ways, a direct critique of that failing performance. It is as if Minsk is saying, "We supported you when you were strong, but now your performance is costing us too much." This performance problem also highlights a growing imbalance. Russia once appeared as the senior partner, with Belarus firmly in its orbit. But as Russia struggles, Belarus finds room to assert itself. The warning is part of that performance shift. It is Belarus stepping onto the stage with a voice of its own, signaling that it will not simply follow Moscow blindly into deeper turmoil. For Putin, this is deeply troubling, because it exposes just how far his influence has slipped, even among supposed allies.